So if your horse can do all of those things and you think you're ready to transition into some kind of a shank bit, I kind of recommend some kind of what we call transitional bits. And I only have 2 that I've used in recent years. There are lots of what they call correction bits out there, and I don't know where the name came from because it seems kind of like a misnomer to me. This one is typically called a shank snaffle, which again is not really correct because it has a shank and a snaffle bit doesn't have a shank. So I'm going to ask my camera guy to zoom in just a little bit on that bit so you can see it. It's basically the same as the snaffle bit that's in his mouth, but it has a 2-to-1 ratio, and you measure that here. This is called the purchase. So the shank is twice as long, maybe not even quite, might be just 1.5. Yeah, that's just 1 and about 1.5. So you're not going to get a whole lot of overt pressure on this bit, and a lot of guys use this. I like it okay. I like this one better. This one's called a Billy Allen bit. And I believe it's a 3-to-1. Let me measure it. 1, 2, or about 2.5. It's about 2.5 to 1. And it has this swivel here. The reason I like this bit is because you can pick up on one side of it independently from the other. But yet when you pull on both reins, it pretty much works like a regular curb bit. All right. So I'm going to put this bit on runner here and show you a couple of different ways you can ride with this bit. And it's springtime, and he thinks that I brought him out here so he could eat all this grass in the front yard. But that is not really our purpose. Okay. And at times I've ridden runner in this bit quite a lot, although I haven't used it on him recently. But he gets along with it pretty well. And I'm just looking, I just put a new curb strap and it's a little tight. So give me a second. When you first start using a curb bit, you probably want to get this curb strap pretty loose so that it doesn't connect, because remember, that's a new pressure point for your horse. He's not used to that pressure on his chin, and you need to get him used to it before you start doing a lot with it. And what I'll do with him when I first introduce this is I'm going to work with it on the ground without getting on his back. Okay? So what I'll do, stay with me here, buddy. You need to resist temptation. Okay? What I'll do is while I'm just standing here on the ground, I'll start gently putting pressure on that bit. That's still too tight on the curb strap. I'll start gently putting pressure on the bit and see if he's going to be okay. Is he going to give to it? He's not giving to it too well. Let me loosen this a little more because it's too tight. And I do ride him with a bit tighter chin strap than you would when you're first starting out, because he's been ridden in a shank bit for some years now. So he understands it, deals with it better. Generally, when you start out, you probably want to be able to put 2 fingers between there. That's not quite 2 fingers, but that's okay. Okay. That's a little tighter than you'd probably want to start off with, but it's okay for him. All right. So I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can ride in this type of a shank bit or correction bit. The first way, and you can ride these 2-handed. They're not really designed for that, but in the beginning, if you would probably want to start off holding your hands the same way you would with a snaffle until the horse begins to understand what you're doing. Make sure that you can neck rein your horse, and I should have mentioned that earlier when I was talking about things your horse needs to know before you go into the shank bit. He should also know at least some amount of neck reining, which this horse does. And so I'm just touching the rein on his neck, and that's a neck rein. This is not a neck rein. That is a violation. A neck rein is simply lay the rein on the neck like that. Okay? So you can ride this in this correction bit 2-handed. And of course, he's given to it pretty nicely because he's used to it. You can also ride transition with what's called a flat hand, where you're going to hold your hand like this, and I'm riding one-handed, but if my horse needs help If I'm starting to make a turn and he's having trouble with it, then I can reach with my index finger here and kind of help bend his head a little bit to the left. Okay, or I can use my pinky to bend his head a little bit to the right with a flat hand, and still have my other hand free to do other things. If I were roping, it'd be switch hands like that. Okay. Once you get your horse working pretty well in this, then you're going to go to one-handed. Certain show classes require, if you're riding one-handed, that the reins come out the top of your hand, the front of your hand like that. Okay? And depending on which one it is, some of them don't even let you move it very much. And so you need to be able to ride. If your horse is well trained and can ride in a shank bit, then you can do this one-handed. And I should be able to do everything I need to do with this horse one-handed. And I'll lay the rein on his neck and I'll push with my leg to turn him. Okay? And I'm mostly riding my horse with my feet and my seat. Okay? And I stopped him off my seat. I didn't really pull too much on this bridle. Okay? So I like this Billy Allen bit because I can do this kind of stuff. I can still bend my horse a little bit. They're not really designed for side pulls. Okay, so if you've got to do a lot of bending on your horse, don't do it in shank bit. All right, and I'll tell you why. Because look at his cheek. If you pull real hard on that purchase right here, watch here. Zoom in just a little bit, camera guy. If I pull out, watch that bit dig into the side of his head. You see it? So that's why you don't want to be doing that in a shank bit. If you've got to do a lot of that, you're going to be working against yourself because you're poking your horse in the side of the head, and he's not going to go along with that very well.